Alright, let's make the boss look purely silly. Alright, 2-second Blood Bishop on 100 pit. Not bad. It's Barb with the mobility of a sorceress. Look at that. It's crazy. This build is quicker than any Barb I've ever built by far, and it's awesome. Look at that. You just warp into stuff and melt it. Boom, teleporting pack to pack like it's nothing. This is awesome. Here's the damage you can expect, guys. Pretty wild. You can get over 300 and 400 bill hits. And it's not even that bad, and I still have a ways to go to optimize. What's up, guys? Xygor here. Diablo 4 Season 7 is off to an awesome start, and so is the WhirlQuake Barbarian. But there's been a recent meta shift that makes this spec, which is already one of the most powerful in the game, and it is the best speed farming spec in the game, even more powerful. Because now we have the ability to teleport almost like we're a sorceress. And we're doing this without sacrificing any of the damage potential, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. In fact, this is going to be an all-encompassing guide for how to play this build, including the gear, the skills, the aspects, the gems, the expertise, their Paragon Boards, the rune words, the Witchcraft Powers, the Witchcraft Gems, and I'll even show you a demo on how to play this. But if you're not in the endgame yet, have no fear, because in the description below I have a link that shows you 4 different variants. Each one represents a different progression level of this build. You can definitely play it before you get to the end game, but this video will be more centered upon the end game and the ideal, because it's designed to speed run pit 100s pit to pit 110 super quick between 1 and 2 minutes. In fact, adding this teleport ability has allowed me to shave off 15 to 20 seconds of each of my pit 100 runs, and now I'm running them super quick, and that time adds up because it allows me to gain more Paragon in a shorter amount of time. So this build is fantastic. It's one of the most powerful, and I'm going to show you how to play it right now. So let's get into the gear first. For the gear, number 1, Harlequin Crest, one of the 2 mythics we're using this build. It's not that much DPS increase, but it's an overall amazing item because of the survivability. Not only does it give us high life, we're not really using max resource or armor in this build too much, because we're going to get capped easily on armor especially, but cooldown reduction, super important here. You want to max that out on the masterwork if you can, and damage reduction. We have all red gems in our armor just for that more strength, but this one's great. If you don't have it though, no fear, you can go Godslayer Crown or Tusk Helm. There's a few different helm options. If you don't have this, it's not obligatory to play this build to have this, but it is the best item for it in the helm slot. For chest, we have Mantle of Mountain's Fury. It's kind of a dual-faceted item because it gives us awesome survivability via the defensive stance stat, and chance for earthquakes to deal double damage, and that is so powerful. If you hit that with 3 masterwork, it's the best, and I happen to have the greater affix there, but ideally I'd want the other greater affix to be on defensive stance, because that's really powerful for survivability too. You don't have to worry about the percentage for the lower amount of damage. I have 80%, but it's not really necessary. You just want the greater affix and defensive stance on Earthquake if you can. Triple hit masterwork on Earthquake if you can, though. Best gloves by far is Fist of Fate. And most Fist of Fates are, I think, unusable unless you have 300. I have 295, but all the other stats are so good, or most of them, that I had to use this because it hit a greater affix on a critical strike chance, which is great to stack, and attack speed. So if you have a Fist of Fate, even with 4 greater affixes and the percentage down below is like 275, it's still almost unusable. You need to have close to 300 because the damage potential is so much higher on those Fists of Fate. So I'm pretty happy with this one. I'd like to have 300, but this is the best gloves to get for the build. If you don't have this, you can use gloves with, Relentless Berserkers while leveling is a great choice, and there's a few other good choices as well. Juggernaut and some other options. But Fist of Fate here, that's great. For Pants. Pants, Ariet's Bearing. This does several things. First and foremost is it allows us to basically max out our resistance to all elements pretty easily. So I have a greater affix there, 68.3%. Other than that, there's only a few things that I have that are amplifying my all resistance, including the gems here that I have, and also a few places on the Paragon boards. But this also gives you Call the Ancients cooldown reduction. So it's one of the ways in which we're keeping Call the Ancients up 24/7, which amplifies our damage, gives us great synergy. And your Ancients are empowered, which helps their damage, but you don't really need that additional damage. Those numbers aren't as relevant as getting, you know, say maximum life, resistance to all elements, and Call the Ancients cooldown reduction are great to get. But this is the best Pants for that reason. For Boots, when you're leveling, I recommend using Yen's Blessing once you can get that unique, because it gives you all resist. It's another way to get all resist. But in the end, you want to have a Boots with an aspect. I have Concussive Strikes. This is a way to do more damage to dazed enemies, and we are dazing enemies via Ground Stomp. So it's just another modifier that increases our damage. I have a good one here, pretty good strength, movement speed, both greater affix and Warcry. I would like to have a greater affix on Warcry as well, but you know, can't expect everything yet. But that would be my dream. Movement speed and earthquake size here, both very important. Earthquake size, we're gonna have one roll here and one roll on another piece I'll talk about to make sure our earthquakes are bigger, hit more enemies, give us more damage potential. But this is a great Boots to have. I don't even need Ghost Walkers anymore. I used to run Ghost Walkers, but now I have Unhindered thanks to the Bog gem here. So you don't need that. And I have 200% movement speed with Rallying Cry on, so I don't need the additional speed. So Concussive Strikes it is. I think that's the best aspect now. Alright, weapons. So, but first, before we get into the stats, between all the weapons, you want to have one temper of a temper of either a temper of either damage while berserking or damage while close. I have 2 damage while berserking on my weapons and 2 damage while close. This two-handed mace is a pretty darn good mace, greater effects on strength, and I triple hit the chance for earthquakes to cast twice. So 85.8% of my earthquakes cast twice, which is just awesome. It's one of the best stats for this build. Other than Heavy Hitter, it probably is the best stat for this build. And I have the Earthquakes aspect on it. So Earthquakes gives my Ground Stomp the ability to create earthquakes, and then you stand in them and do increased damage. And your earthquakes themselves do increased damage too. So this is one of the build enabling aspects of the build. Absolutely necessary for it. I would love to have a max life and crit strike damage greater fix here, but again, that's the ideal. This is probably my best weapon, maybe my best item, because I rolled it so well. For the one-handers, I have one one-hander with damage to close enemies as a tempering and one damage while berserking as a tempering, but they both have a greater fixed strength, and this one has greater fixed maximum life. So you want strength, max life, and crit strike damage. Heavy Hitter, ideally on the other 3 weapons, you want to have max. So this one I was lucky enough, hit it 3 times, got it maxed. This one I got 2 on strength, 1 on Heavy Hitter. And then this one I got it maxed. So I got mostly pretty lucky here. I think I have 25 Heavy Hitter ranks, and I think 27 is the max. And Heavy Hitter is just unbelievable because it gives you scaling earthquake damage that is crazy. So it's really, really good. The other thing that you want to make sure of here is to have Vehement Brawlers. So Vehement Brawlers just increases your damage once you use your ultimate skill. You're using it all the time because it's Call the Ancients, and it's fantastic. And then this is Executioner. So Second Sentence is the operative one in this one. Your earthquake damage is increased by 15% for every 100 strength you have. You have outrageous strength, and I have over 5,000 when I'm in an actual pit. Right now it just shows as 4752, but you're going to have over 5,000 in the pit. For the other two-hander, I have max Heavy Hitter. I was lucky enough to hit that 3 times, and this one has Incendiary Fissures. So this one means that your earthquakes are going to do even more damage. It's another way to modify, augment the damage of our earthquakes, which really is the bread and butter. Whirlwind isn't. Whirlwind is what we're using to lay it down. So is Ground Stomp. Alright, for the neck, I have Boon of Bull Kathos. Or Bull Kathos is the aspect here. This is a super overpowered aspect that gives you survivability and damage. Your Earthquakes get more damage, and when you're standing in them, you get 30% increased damage reduction. It's ridiculously good. This is one of the best all-encompassing aspects of the build. As far as stat priorities, this one's okay. It's not great. I have Strength, Cooldown, and Heavy-Handed. The ideal aspect, or ideal stats to have on this is Strength, Heavy Hitter, and Counter-Offensive. Cooldown's okay, but it's not so great because we already have so much. So ideally, I would like to have Strength, Heavy-Handed, and Counter-Offensive. Or, if I couldn't get those, Pit Fighter's pretty good, and Slaying Strike is pretty good. Those are both decent affixes that you can get to. But I still got pretty lucky by hitting Strength twice in the Masterwork process. So this isn't bad. Ground Stomp and Earthquake Size are the Masterworks here. Or the tempering here. Earthquake Size, you have it between your boots and your neck. So right here, added together, I have about 86% Earthquake Size. You want to get that as close to 100 as possible. Make sure they're as big as possible. It's the way we do it, is put it on the neck and boots. For Ring, I have Bold Chieftains. It's a way to keep our shouts going. One of the best aspects we can get. One of the rarest, though, so this one's not easy to find. But we have Bold Chieftains here with Strength, Critical Strike Chance, Critical Strike Damage as our stat priorities. That's exactly what I want. I would like to triple hit Strength with Masterwork, but maybe in the future. For the Tempering, Brawling cooldown reduction, and damage to close enemies. The damage to close enemies could also be damage while berserking if you want. Both are good. You just want to make sure to get both to the thresholds that's necessary to activate 2 of the legendary nodes, and I'll talk about that when we get into the Paragon Boards. Other ring is Ring of Starless Skies. This is the other mythic unique item we're using in this build. This one's pretty good because the greater affix is on attack speed. You ideally want it either there or critical strike chance. One of those two is good. We're going to have close to 100% total critical strike chance in this build, and ideally cap that. And you can cap it without getting the greater affix there, but getting it there on this item is a way to free us up in other ways, so it's good to have that. This one's pretty good. Lucky Hit Chance and Core Skills are not as good. But this is a great ring because it amplifies your damage and gives you resource cost reduction. So it's fantastic, really worth playing. But don't fret, this one, again, this is not mandatory to play this build if you don't have Ring of Starless Skies, because you can use Vocalized Empowerment here if not. So Vocalized Empowerment aspect gives you resource cost reduction, and that's a good way to go. If you don't have this, it's a great alternative. For the expertise, we're running Two-Handed Axe because I'm using Polearm on my Whirlwind, and that is ideal because having your Polearm on Whirlwind gives you a healthy damage bonus, and the only way in which I wouldn't want the axe to be there is if I was using an axe. If I'm using an axe, then I would make this the Polearm, but ideally you want to be using the Polearm as your Whirlwind and having axe there. You don't ideally want a sword here because the sword's bonus isn't that great. We're making stuff bleeding anyways through Whirlwind, so you really want an axe or a Polearm to be your weapon over here, and you just take the other one here. For the gems, we have reds in all the armors, just gives us more strength. Green in the weapons for critical strike damage. You could put blue there too because vulnerable damage is good too. They're basically equal, and you kind of want a balance of sorts. And for the Witchcraft Gems, I have Friend of the Bog here. This gives you 8% primary core stat, 10% maximum life, and unhindered when you have 3 or more growth or decay powers. And I'll show you those later. But just a great synergy here that gives you basically everything you need. Unhindered is awesome too because it allows us to drop Ghostwalker. I think this one is, Moonlight Ward here. We have Moonlight Ward. This gives us damage reduction. So we get 3% damage reduction per rank of my unique witch power, which I max, and 0.5% maximum resist all for each rank. Just more damage reduction. And then the third one is the Dust Stone. Dust Stone right here. Each of your auras and hexes takes increased damage. So another great gem. These three synergize really well with what we're working with, and it's all around very good. Alright, let's get into the skills. Skill tree here, expanded outwards so we can see. Skill tree. We just want 2 random points in one of these. We're using this to level. I use Lunging Strike, but you can use another if you want, but they're useless. We're not really using them other than to get to the next tier. So we are taking 1 rank of Whirlwind all the way up to Furious Whirlwind. Whirlwind doesn't do our damage. It's what we use to lay the earthquakes along with Ground Stomp. And this one's important though. Furious Whirlwind makes everything we hit bleeding, which is really important to synergize with our abilities, give us more damage reduction while bleeding, and other things. So it's really important to have that. And we have 3 pressure point here. This is one of the ways we are using to get enemies to be vulnerable, do more damage to them. We're also using Exploit, which I'll talk about later. But 3 points in there pretty much guarantees that you'll have things vulnerable all the time in tandem with Exploit. That's all we have there. Going down to the defensive skills, 4 points in Ground Stomp up to Strategic Ground Stomp. So Ground Stomp is really important in this build because it lays down earthquakes, and it gives you Fury when you cast it, and it resets the cooldown of your ultimate ability, which is Call the Ancients. It's one of the things that allows us to not only do damage, but also get Fury and keep Call the Ancients up the whole time. It's fantastic. And each Ground Stomp ideally does 2 earthquakes because I have, you know, that modifier on the chest, and there's an 85% chance of them to do double damage. So it's almost like each Ground Stomp gives us 4 earthquakes if it hits optimally. It's fantastic. For survivability, we have 2 passives here, Imposing Presence to max and Martial Vigor. More life, more damage reduction against elites. Fantastic for this build. Rallying Cry allows you to move quickly, keep your resources up, and keeps you unstoppable. 1 point there all the way to Strategic Rallying Cry. Challenging Shout. This is our bread and butter defensive skill. It can also be up all the time. Very important here. 1 point there all the way down to Tactical Challenging Shout. With this up, we essentially get 50% damage reduction, which is insane. It really is mandatory once you get to those higher pits to use this. I wouldn't recommend leveling with it. You don't have to level with it. In fact, I would drop it while you're leveling so you can have a generator. I used Lunging Strike, but once you get as high as I am, this is fantastic. Going down to the brawling skills, we have 1 point in War Cry over to Power War Cry. Just more damage here. You can see I have it boosted with 4 additional ranks that are on my boots. Just another way to stack damage, damage modifier. It's up all the time, and it grants you Berserking. Along with this and your Ground Stomp, you're going to be able to be Berserking the entire time. It's always going to be up, so it's fantastic. 3 points in Booming Voice, really important to keep those shouts going. 1 point in movement or swiftness. My movement speed is capped at 200 without those last 2 points when I have Rallying Cry up, but you'll want to have more points here if you don't have that cap yet, but you don't need to take any more than you need there. Movement speed 200 is really key when you have Rallying Cry up, and even when you don't and you're leveling, you don't have your shouts up full time. It's really helpful. Movement speed's fantastic. 1 point in Aggressive Resistance. This is bugged right now, so additional ranks actually don't give you higher damage reduction. Hopefully Blizzard will fix that. Blizzard, please fix that. And then 3 points in Battle Fervor. When a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, gain Berserking for 3 seconds. We're getting that via Ground Stomp. And Prolific Fury. While Berserking, Fury generation is increased 18%. It's a way that we're keeping our Fury up. There's other ways. We have Ring of Starless Skies and some other ways, but this is one of the key pieces for that. Going down to Weapon Mastery skills. 3 points in Pit Fighter, more damage. 3 points in No Mercy, more damage. 3 points in Slaying Strike, more damage. These are great. If you already have 100, you can start dropping points in No Mercy. But when you don't have 100, it's really important to have this. 1 point in Thick Skin, getting 3 points of counteroffensive, more damage. We're fortifying like crazy. And Defensive Stance is so powerful now. You can max this out. Please max this out. It gives you more fortify and damage reduction, and you heal. It's so good to stack this as far as you can. The chest, Mantle of Mountain's Fury, gives us more ranks, and it's just fantastic. It's a way to just keep us surviving forever. Going down, we have Call the Ancients maxed up to Supreme Call the Ancients. This is going to do damage. It also synergizes well to give you additional bonuses on other aspects and abilities that we're using. As I said earlier, heavy hitter. If you take nothing else away from this video, take this away right now. This is the best stat for this build. It's better than strength. It does so much scaling damage for our earthquakes and our ultimate skills and our dust devils. We are spawning dust devils too. That's a small piece of our damage, but earthquakes, it's just going to make them super powerful, and it's really important. Heavy-handed, max this out. I have additional ranks of 4 from my neck, but it just does more damage. It's really useful. And then we have unconstrained for our key passive right here. So that's basically it. You can play around with this. Check the planners below for the other variants. If you're leveling, you want it a little bit different than I have, but this is made for endgame. Alright, let's get into Paragon. Paragon Boards here. Link in the description below if you want details. It has the full Paragon Boards for the different variants. But we're starting out here with Territorial on the first board, more close damage. It's really important to have that. Going upward, we are taking Challenger. Now initially I didn't use Challenger, I used Wrath here and kind of maxed this out. But Challenger, I've been won over to it because it allows you to stack so many more strength nodes that are doubled and gives you 10 strength. So it's fantastic for that, and it gives you more damage to elites. So Challenger is really good, and in the end game, when you start to get past like Paragon 280, you're probably going to put other points here too. Like I'm going to max out Dex and Willpower to get the bonuses of rare nodes that I don't have right now. So Challenger right here. Going east, we're going to get Martial here next. Martial is another way to keep our shouts up almost all the time. Give us more close damage and dust devil damage, but those aren't really the key parts of it. It's more for the shout skills here. We are taking Force of Nature here. This is what gives us our dust devils plus a 200% bonus versus close. So to get this, you have to have 40% of your damage versus close has to equal 200. I have that, but it's really important to get the max here if you can. We're getting other nodes here with earthquake damage. We're getting life here. We're getting damage to close, dust devil damage, and then we're getting a lot of stats here. Going upward, next to Rumble, this is probably the glyph you want to max first when you are using this setup, because Rumble is the biggest stacking earthquake damage outside of Heavy Hitter that we have. You want every single strength node here so that you can get 115 total and increase your earthquake damage by a ridiculous amount. You can see here we have Craving, more damage to bleeding. This is restorative. I take this a little bit later, but this gives me more life. We have Grit, more damage to bleeding enemies too. This is a place where I need to increase my willpower for a little more. Maybe I'll do that later. Not a priority now. And Revel, earthquake damage and damage to bleeding. This is a fantastic rare node. Going east here, we have Weapons Master. So swapping weapons grants you 8% of your maximum fury, and you deal increased damage to injured and healthy enemies. It's really good. I forgot to mention too, Blood Rage here. This is killing a bleeding enemy has a chance to grant you Berserking, which is not really what we need on this, but the second sense, your damage is increased by 10% of your damage while Berserking bonus up to 45%. That's the part that we really need. That's why we're putting damage while Berserking on many of our items, including our weapons. Alright, eastward here we have the Exploit glyph. Now I played Wrath here for a while, and Wrath is about equally good, but because we're tweaking our setup a little bit to allow for the teleport setup, which I'll talk about in a second, we are taking Exploit. It's another way to do damage to vulnerable enemies and make enemies vulnerable. On this board we're taking Iron Strength, Raw Power, Nimble, Hunter Killer, some really good nodes, and then there's some resist nodes like Denial and Lightning Condition, but we don't need those right now because I have max, but you can take them if you don't have max. So that's basically it. I have about 20 more Paragons to go before I max it. Alright, let's talk about runes, and that is important for the setup. This Igni Tech combination is very important. It's one of the most build enabling things of this build. Igni Tech allows you to keep the earthquakes going while you're whirlwinding. It allows us to lay them down as we're progressively whirlwinding, as you saw in the demo, and I'll show you in the demo after this. If you don't have Igni, you can go with Lith Tech, I think is pretty good as well. And there's a few other options too, but Igni Tech is the best. Alright, and this is what enables the teleport that you saw. Teleporting from pack to pack is enabled via Yule Jaw. Now I was running Yule Gar, which gives you up to 25% additional crit chance, but Yule Jaw allows us to teleport, much like a sorceress, whenever we have that up. And when we have Yule Jaw up, we can essentially teleport from pack to pack. Now you can't just spam your spacebar because it makes your evade a spacebar into the teleport when it's up, but you can do it very frequently. You can basically do it almost every pack. This has allowed me to shave between 15, 20, sometimes 25 seconds off my runs. It allows me to do them between 90 seconds and 2 minutes, and that really adds up. It makes this a super efficient speed build that's awesome. It really enables it. Yule Jaw. There are some other options for Yule if you don't have that too, because it's kind of rare, but Yule Jaw is the best. Alright, Witchcraft Powers. Let's get into the Witchcraft Powers here. For Witchcraft Powers, I have Soul Harvest. Soul Harvest allows you to gain additional core stats. It's just another boost that we have, and it is a growth and decay ability, which is key to the gems we're using. Aura Specialization, it makes our auras grow in size and gives us additional critical strike damage. Another great one. Hex of Whispers, this was bugged, but it's back. And it basically deals additional shadow damage. And it's another growth and decay ability that's a hex that we need for the synergy here. You also get a little bit of Fortify as well, but that part isn't really necessary. We're mostly taking it for growth or decay and decay. Hex Specialization. This is what we put in because we dropped the Gar rune. Gar allowed us to stack 25% additional critical strike damage, but now we get 20 of that back from this, and our hexes are 30% more potent, but we're mainly taking this for the critical strike chance. It allows us to keep that 100% critical strike cap up in dungeons, as long as the enemies are afflicted with our hexes, which they will be because our auras are so big in size. And then the last one, Aura of Siphoning, it's the third growth and decay one. It just does poison damage to everything in the aura, and you heal for 1% of your maximum life every time it deals damage. So we're mostly using it as a growth and decay skill. Does a little damage, get a little healing. Alright, that's really important because of the Witchcraft Gems. So Witchcraft Gems here, we got Friend of the Bog, we got Moonlight Ward, and we got the Dust Stone. So those are the Witchcraft Powers. That's basically the entire setup. And again, don't fret if you don't have all these items unoptimized. Take a look at the description below. There's a planner with different variants for this build. Alright, with that said, I'm going to show you a demo. Pit 100, full run with the boss. Let's go. Barb Power. I'm going to show you how the teleportation barb works right now. Alright, Pit 100, let's go. Just laying down whirlwinds around mobs, get the teleport back, so I'm going to use it. Rinse and repeat, ground slam on the elites because that will do the most damage when you need it. A ground stomp will do 3 to 4 earthquakes when your modifiers hit right. 4 is the best, of course. Pack to pack. Over and over. Teleport to the next one once you complete it and have teleport back. Boom. Next pack. Destroy. Next pack. Ground stomp. Work there. Teleport through. These maps are not the best for this teleport, but that's alright. Open maps. It's really nice. And kind of corridors is pretty good too. Next level here. Remember to tap the whirlwind. You don't want to hold it because you won't lay down as many earthquakes then. So tapping is the way to go. Keep Call the Ancients up. It should be up all the time with our build the way it is. That will give you extra damage by a lot. Plowing through here. And And if you get ahead, it's alright most of the time. You don't want to stop at mobs for any length of time, because you're not being efficient if you do. And mobs that catch up to you will run into your earthquake anyway and die. So as long as you don't get too far ahead, that's fine. There's the portal within 2 minutes. We're just going to destroy the Hive Master so quick here. 2-second Hive Master on Pit 100. That's what I'm talking about. This is the teleporting WhirlQuake Barb. That's how we roll. Great build. Best speed farming build in the game. This is how we're going to get to 300 Paragon pretty soon. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the teleporting WhirlQuake Barb guide. Let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas of how to optimize this build, something you don't think I'm doing right, or just share your experiences this season. Which class are you playing, and does this build intrigue you to play Barbarian? Let me know, and I'll catch you later.